So 80 minutes past 8 o'clock, and Helen Stapleton is here with Common Sense Matters. Good morning, Helen.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine. How's you?
Good. I'm sad I won't get to hear the kids doing the pledge anymore for a while now.
Well, we might get to do some during summer school.
This is the last week, right?
This was it today.
Oh, today's the last.
Today they get out at 9 o'clock in less than an hour.
Oh, wow. Okay. I don't have kids in that age anymore. So.
I got you.
Didn't know. Okay, well, this is Common Sense Matters. It's sponsored by the Franklin County Democratic Party, and today our guest is Philip Lorenz. Some of y'all might know him from the Herald Chronicle. He wrote there for many years. He's a veteran, a Navy veteran, and
worked at the base.
Yeah, worked at the base, and he's my ballroom dancing teacher as well. Anyway. So the legislative session for the Tennessee General Assembly just ended on May 5th, and what we're going to do today is just talk about some of the laws that they passed in that session. I've kind of always said that Republicans are generally passing laws that's a solution in search of a problem. So a lot of the things that they passed are things that nobody asked for, nobody really wants, and it's not really solving any problem. So we're just going to go through that today, and if y'all want to call in, the number is 967-2201. We'd be happy to answer your questions. We may not know the answer, but we'll try. So again, that's 967-2201. So, my first question for you, Philip, is did the GOP, so right now we have a Republican supermajority.
Correct.
In the Tennessee House.
Yes.
They can pass whatever they want,
Yes.
with they don't have to consider Democrats at all.
No.
So did they pass any legislation that would help working families or low-wage workers?
No.
Yeah, right. That's kind of what I was expecting to hear.
Correct. From what I understand, they've actually cut the time allotment that they could receive federal aid in half, if I understand correctly. I don't know all the details.
You mean the unemployment benefits?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So not only did they not do anything to help, but they're actually actively hurting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And yeah, I'm sure there are probably some people who could be back at work, but there are a lot of people who, well, I mean, I'm just thinking about our little town, one restaurant closed.
Right.
It's not coming back, so all the people at that restaurant are not getting their jobs back.
Nope.
Multiply that by, I think every town in Tennessee lost at least one restaurant during COVID.
It's been a wide impact, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So really nothing that would help.
No.
Okay, because when I think about like what a working family is needing to make their life a little better, it's help with childcare.
Yes.
It's getting to and from work,
Right.
like less traffic or maybe public transportation or something, health care, and better wages. And
mortgage payments and rental.
Right.
And all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And there is absolutely nothing that doesn't even exist in the Republican mindset. Those problems are not even on their radar. What is on their radar is going to the bathroom. So, can you tell us about that, Bill? I don't like to think about other people going to the bathroom. That's a topic I like to avoid, but they seem to be obsessed with it. So, could you tell us about that law, the bathroom bill?
Oh, you're talking about the gender?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I don't really know much about that, but it's basically the only bathroom that people are allowed to use, or if you're from a men's room, you have to be born a man and can only be a man. And when in reality, if you go to, a state park or something, and you see people are backed up trying to get in the bathroom, you see people going to the other bathroom anyway.
I've done that before.
Because they have to go in there, and it's just one person in there at a time. Right. So nobody cares. It's kind of ridiculous.
Right. Well, what I'm wondering is, for the past hundreds of years, no, has there ever been a case of a man dressing up like a woman and going in a bathroom to attack us? First of all, women, we're always in stalls anyway, so nobody can see you anyway.
Right.
I've never heard of that happening. Where have those people been going to the bathroom all this time before? Who's going to enforce that? Are they going to pay someone to sit at the bathroom and check your birth certificate as you go in?
The bathroom police.
Exactly.
The potty police.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it just seems like a waste of everything.
Well, all it's doing is kind of, first of all, I mean, how many people are even transgender? It's like
it's
less than 1%.
Yeah,
it's a minuscule amount of people.
True.
It's like, why even? It's just not something I ever even encounter or think about in my daily life at all.
It's making a problem out of something that's not a problem.
Yeah, and currently there are gay men and gay women who go into a bathroom, but they're dressed like their normal sex, and
Exactly.
they might be very attracted to the people they're seeing in the bathroom. We're not passing a law about that. I
know.
just don't.
It's just absurd.
I don't understand what their priorities are.
I think it's a waste of time and everything. Mm-hmm. I agree.
Okay, well, what is another thing that got passed this
Well, one of the things that President Donald Trump had wanted to propose was a Medicaid block grant, and Governor Lee he actually went ahead and actually did pass this.
And is it true we are the only state in the United States that
Yes.
has ever passed
Correct.
this? Okay, we are
Yes.
an experimental guinea pig on this.
Yes, and some people will promote this. I have talked to Iris Rutter. Iris Rutter gave me a comment about it. I've worked with Iris before, and we know we don't agree on a lot of things, but she gave me her explanation saying, this will benefit people and they'll get more benefits. But in reality, anybody who hears the word block grant and really knows what it even means, knows that it allows the state to detour funding, federal funding, to other things. Plus, they can also take some of the funding away, and it's just less money. It's actually less money altogether, and that's the point. That's one of the advocations is to make it. It's a way of saving money. But I know people personally on disability, and getting on disability is a nightmare in itself. And once you get on it, the amount of money you get is pathetic. And so it means that they could, from what I understand from the Tennessee Justice Center, of course, which is a progressive organization, but they do say that the law does allow them to reallocate money to other things that had nothing to do with TennCare.
Like roads or something?
Like infrastructure
Okay.
and things like that, as I understand it, I'm not saying I'm correct, but that's my understanding. And then also it can it can take money away from certain prescription drugs and treatments, and these people need every damn thing they can get. I mean, I have a family member who's on disability, and he was, I'm not going to go into his history, but he's made plenty of mistakes, but mental illness is definitely a part of what happens to these people. And the amount of money he gets, he can barely afford to even pay rent, let alone, and the medication benefits he has are so limited. And blood pressure medication, he's legally get opioid medication.
Well, how will he be affected by this law?
Well, he thinks it's a good thing, but he doesn't realize it means he can get even less money and less access to certain medications, and he needs a certain kind of treatment that may be taken off the list because it's kind of a new treatment.
So this person's on Medicaid?
Yes.
Okay.
TennCare. Well, they call it TennCare.
Yeah, right.
Now they call it TennCare Plus. That's the term they use. But if you read the fine print, and they deny this, that that they'll take any of the money away from this, but in reality, it does give them that leverage. And that's the problem.
So they just get a big chunk of money from the federal government,
Right.
and they can.
I wouldn't call it a big chunk of money.
Okay, but a chunk of money, and they can just allocate it as they wish. Can they just sit on it too and not spend it?
No, they still have to, some of it does have to go toward medical treatment, and prescription drugs and so forth. But it does give them the avenue to divert some of it away from that. And so, and I don't know what the criteria is, how they can do this, but when you hear the word block grant, I don't care whether it's Medicare or anything else, it, to me, it's like a red flag. I mean, it's something that it's good to have access to a block grant if you have one, but it's usually very limited. And when the state can take control of federal funding, then I have some concerns about that too.
So so is it going to cost? Why not just plain old expand Medicaid like they've done in Arkansas, Louisiana, all these sort of nearby states?
Well, Tennessee was
Will this result in any more people getting on Medicaid?
No.
Okay.
No.
So we're still going to have people working really hard at McDonald's or wherever who work over 40 hours a week but cannot, but make too much for Medicaid but not enough for private insurance. So there's still
Right.
going to be people falling in the Medicaid gap.
Well, you get the donut hole thing, but most people I know that are on Medicaid and on TennCare, all the ones I'm familiar with anyway, are on disability. And we had to hire a local lawyer, and luckily, he helped us. And actually, going back to Desjardins, Desjardins had a representative here in Franklin County who was brilliant and helped us tremendously with this whole thing. Now, kudos go to that man, and he was actually a Swanee graduate.
Oh, I know who you're talking about, yeah. He's from
And
South Pittsburgh.
yeah,
Yeah,
and,
I'm not thinking of his name.
and I can't think of his name now, but I mean,
Isaiah?
Isaiah,
that's Robinson. Yeah, Isaiah Robinson. Yeah, he was really helpful. And if it hadn't been for him, I don't think we would have gotten disability. And of course, now some of it has to do with a person being incarcerated and what level of income they made before they got to where they're disabled. I know another person who gets $800 a month, and some get $700 a month. I mean, it's just not enough money to cover the basics.
But isn't disability a whole nother thing from Medicaid?
No.
It's not?
No. I don't know the total where the line is drawn. I'm not saying that some people, who are not disabled can get Medicaid. SSI, to me, is the equivalent of Medicaid, which is the equivalent of disability. Now, I'm not totally sure I've got that correct, but that's my understanding anyway.
All right. Well, what are some of the other laws that passed? I heard you talking when I came in. I heard you talking about permitless carry. So what is
Right.
that all about? What is that? Were people out in the streets demanding permitless carry? Were there like?
Well, there's been a lot of very conservative people who have been wanting to have less constraints on on buying and using guns, and
So what's the current? Before that law passed, what was the law about open carry or carry?
well, I don't know about the open carry part, but I think you had to have. I think open carry. I don't think you
You
could,
had to have a permit in order to carry
Yeah.
a gun around with you.
you had to have a permit to either carry or conceal, either one. I think. I believe.
Right.
And what this does, you don't have to. It's like having a car and not having to have a license.
Like permitless driving, huh?
Exactly. And there's no training required, nothing. And like I was talking to, I called Walmart, and I also called Sheriff Fuller's office, frankly, the sheriff's department.
So basically, anyone over 18
Okay.
can carry a gun.
It's more
with them.
it's more complicated.
Oh,
than
okay.
that.
All right.
Okay. Part of it is, it's the type of gun and who sells the gun who can determine the age of the person. Like Walmart, they require people to be 21, and they don't have to have a permit, but they do have a background check. So that part of it's good. I'm glad that they at least would do a background check on somebody. But the fact but it's kind of a contradiction not to have a permit and get training. It's kind of, just think about it. Would you want your child to just have, okay, you just pay this money and you got a car, and go for it.
Yeah, no
With no training,
driver's test.
no driver's
nothing.
test, no training. I mean, the person might have some kind of issues that make them unsafe to drive,
I mean, yeah,
I mean,
okay,
it doesn't make any
so
sense to
people
me.
are walking around, and how many other states have permitless
Okay,
carry?
a lot of them. It's a growing situation, and Texas, from what I understand, Texas, they don't even have to have a background check. So no permit, no background check. So that means anybody who's got mentally ill or whatever can just go and buy a gun and they're
Carry it anywhere.
carry
Wow.
it anywhere they want,
I'm always
both concealed and unconcealed.
I am amazed by these people who like have to go to Kroger's and carry a big old gun with them. Like, you're afraid to go buy milk
Right.
and cookies.
Well, I've got somebody
It's
who
unbelievable.
I consider somebody that I have kind of a collaborative relationship with, and his name is John Wimley, and he's got the right. He's got a a permitless concealed carry. He's got a little holster, and he carries his gun with him everywhere, and he feels that is he has no problem with that. To me, it just seems like it's unnecessary, for one thing.
I have traveled all over the United States, Europe, Africa,
Me too.
Asia, Latin America. Never had a gun on me.
Nope.
Nothing. I mean,
Nope.
I got pickpocketed once.
Me too.
And I got pickpocketed a few times where I just didn't even notice that they were
Right.
so sneaky. But
Right.
one time I felt it, and I was 7 months pregnant, and I chased this guy down through the marketplace. We were in the Philippines, and I chased this guy down like maybe 2 or 3 blocks, and finally he dropped it because I was calling so much attention. He just dropped my wallet and then ran on. But if I'd had a gun with me, I'd be shooting into a crowd of people to get the guy back. I mean, I don't know how having a gun would have helped, because when you're in a crowd of people, or if like you're in a mall or something,
Right.
and somebody opens fire, and I understand the people carrying the gun want to be helpful.
Right.
They want to save the day, they want to be a hero and rescue people. That's nice. But if you're in a mall and then some bad guy comes in, and then you shoot at him, then there's going to be like there's bullets firing anyway.
Right.
The police come all of a sudden. How do they know who's the good guy and who's the bad guy?
Right.
It just creates a lot of confusion.
Well, when I was in the military, I went to a lot of places that were very dangerous. I saw a lot of crazy stuff, and one of the things that happened was, even in New Orleans, you don't want to be in New Orleans at 11 o'clock at night on Mardi Gras. And I was with a friend of mine, and all of a sudden these 2 guys come up to me and they try to shine my sneakers, and I knew what that was going to be. And if I had a gun, once again, it would have endangered more than just the person that was trying to rob me, because there were just so many people around us, and so same thing. And in the Philippines,
Just give
Oh,
them
yeah.
your wallet. And, I
Yeah,
mean,
just be done with it.
If you shoot them, then you're going to probably have to go to jail, or at the very least, just spend tons of time in court.
I know.
Like why? What is? I don't see what it solves. I don't know anyone who was ever saved in Kroger's by a guy with a gun. Again, I understand that their intentions are noble, that they want to protect themselves and other
Right.
people, but there's just so much that can
Go
go
wrong.
wrong.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And you can always replace your driver's license and things you lose in your wallet, but
Yep.
you can't replace
A life,
a life.
or
Yeah.
or the pain and damage it causes.
Well, there were some good things that were passed. I heard that there were some criminal justice reforms.
Yes.
So do you want to tell us about that?
Well, I think they were trying to, if I recall directly, they were trying
That
to.
is one thing that people are crying out for. They're crying out for health care. They're crying out for better wages and jobs. And they are crying out for criminal justice reform. So that is one.
I think they were trying to decrease the incarceration rate, and I'm not sure about how that was worded in the bill, but that does make sense, because a lot of people, jail is just full of people. There are two factors: A, they're minor infractions, and 2, a lot of those people are mentally ill, and the police are being burdened by this. They're literally, they become the social network instead of
Social worker, you mean?
So, like social workers, mental health professionals, and that's not their job. And so these people end up, and Sheriff Tim Fuller has totally agreed with me. He said this is a real problem. These people there needs to be intervention much earlier to get ahead of the problem, because a lot of people who are bipolar, they just impulsively will shoot somebody, and I'm not naming any names, but I know some local people who've done this recently, and they're going to go to jail, and they're mentally.
Wait, I'm sorry. These are just what? Who? Not policemen.
No.
Oh, okay.
I know somebody who's who has a mentally ill adult, son, and it's just going to be a matter of time before he ends up in jail. And of course, there is a point where even somebody who's mentally ill is so dangerous that they need to be incarcerated in some form.
So what was the criminal justice reform that they passed? Do you know what
I really don't. I was just about to try and get into the details of that, and I thought it was tomorrow, so I didn't entirely read all the. I mean, I've got some of it on my phone.
If anyone knows, give us a call then, 967-2201. I know that they did pass, I think, some positive criminal justice reform bills, and
they did.
I was glad to hear that, and that fewer people would be in jail. And yeah, let's build more mental hospitals. I mean, I remember never seeing this amount of homeless people when I was a kid. Then when Reagan came in power, he closed all the state mental institutions. There used to be state mental institutions where people could live, and that is when the homeless population exploded in the 80s. That's when all of a sudden there's homeless people freaking everywhere because they just let all these people out.
It was a very draconian approach. I mean, the mental institutions he closed were not necessarily good either, but that was not the answer.
But the answer was to reform them and make them better, not just close them and then just unleash all these people onto the streets. Like, yeah, when it would.
And another law, I wish I could find all the positive law, because she did have some things that she did say were positive. There were like 3 different bills that she was citing that were, this is the right direction to go in. And I have to say that even the permitless law, at least they still have a background check. So that's a good thing.
Okay, that is good. All right, another thing I read about is that in the last few years, Tennessee had received like $730 million in TANF funds. That's temporary aid for needy families.
Right.
And they were just sitting on it, not spending it.
Right.
And so now in this session, they decided, okay, we are going to get that out to needy families to help them to work, for transportation vouchers, for daycare vouchers, things like that will actually help needy families for food and the things that they need to function. I mean, I can't imagine why they were just hoarding that, just sitting on that, because it's temporary aid for needy families. It's not.
Okay, I just found the thing that the bills she says, and she tells what they are.
Okay.
Okay, not to interrupt what you're saying.
That's fine.
She said the good bills, whether it was House Bill 1406, which prohibits magistrate-issued no-knock warrants and requires law enforcement agencies to establish policies regarding de-escalation and use of force.
Oh, that is
Now,
good.
that's a very positive thing. Plus, there's a Senate bill resolution to propose an amendment to the Tennessee Constitution to prohibit slavery. Well,
Wasn't that already illegal?
Anyway, I don't really understand that either. What they might mean is undocumented workers, who are being taken advantage of. I don't know. And let's see.
Okay, well, we'll get back to that when you find it. Okay, so one of the other things that I heard they passed is that schools can't teach about systemic racism.
Right.
Okay, so how will that be enforced? Is there going to be a policeman in every classroom? I mean,
Or they're going to give them a whitewashed version of what history is in this country.
yeah, like I want to know, when I want to know history, I want to know the good and the bad
Yes,
of what happened,
correct.
so that going forward we don't repeat the same mistakes. Do you have any comments on? I think the phone's ringing. Oh, maybe that's okay. Sorry. So what was the justification behind that? Do they just not want people to know about slavery and things that have happened in the past?
I think I think the rationale they're using for that is that they're afraid that extreme left-wing elements or whatever are going to force, for pressure teachers to teach, that systemic racism is just so ingrained in our culture and everything. And if you really look at history, it's, from indigenous people to slaves. I mean, there's some really pretty rocky history there.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, it's reality, and a lot of people on both sides have come to the point where they're saying this is not something we can tolerate anymore. We need to, treat people as equal citizens, equality. So I mean, our Constitution states, all that.
But okay, but in this law, are you not allowed to teach about that lynching and things like that happen, or are you just not allowed to use the word systemic racism? That's what I'm not clear about.
Yeah, that's unclear to me as well. I don't really
Do
understand.
you know, Al?
I really don't.
No, not really. I don't.
It just seems silly to pass a law that is so kind of confusing and hard to enforce, and I get their. I don't know. I just think history should be taught as it really happened. I hope they're not wanting to gloss over or hide things.
Right.
Like there's so many. When I think back on my high school education, my history teacher was the football coach. Great guy, nice guy, but he basically just read out of the book. And like I remember we didn't learn anything about Native Americans. Nothing. All he ever told us about Native Americans was that they were standing in the way of manifest destiny. Like they were in the way of settlers. That's all we learned about them,
Right.
And so it wasn't until, much later in life that I learned, what we had done to the Native Americans
right.
and all that. And I felt really cheated out of my education. And so I wish I had learned about that earlier, Anyway, yeah, it just sounds like a law that's going to confuse people and make history teachers
kind of gloss over.
That or just afraid because they don't want to lose their jobs,
Right.
or I don't know. It just seemed like, again, another solution in search of a problem that's probably going to create more problems than it solves. Anyway. Okay, were there any advancements towards legalizing marijuana?
There was an attempt, but it was killed in the Senate.
Okay.
And they were definitely.
Was this medical marijuana? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. They were on the House side. They did promote it, but on the Senate side it died, so it didn't make it.
Okay. All right. Now, one thing I saw that didn't pass either, but they tried to pass it, was that if you run over a protester,
Right.
you don't get in any trouble.
Right.
So I'm thinking back to this past summer when they had that Black Lives Matter march down Dinah Shore Boulevard.
Right.
I wasn't there. I was out of town, but my husband and son were in there. You were there.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a lot of people that we all know
Right.
that were there. So, and it was peaceful.
Very
it was
peaceful.
fine. I'm trying to imagine if some crazy person had run through and run some people over
Right.
like they did in Charlottesville. That person, and it could have been my son or my husband. I'm trying to think, that person wouldn't get in any trouble for that.
That's
Like,
it's crazy.
Why was that even
Considered.
Yeah, I mean, like, and again, another solution in search of a problem.
Exactly.
Like, it's are people out in the streets demanding let car killers go free?
Well,
I mean, it's just
Well, another part
mind blowing to me. Like, I thought our march in Winchester was great. I went to
Right.
one in my hometown in Louisiana.
Right.
Peaceful, fine.
And the police were very polite and very, they protected, well, there was also, I think.
But that it wasn't killed. It was just delayed, right?
Well, they also made it illegal. They're also trying to make it illegal for somebody to block a roadway.
Okay.
That could be, you could argue that all different kinds of ways, I guess. That, at least that wouldn't be somebody being hurt, though.
Well, I think anyone who's having a protest needs to get a permit
Right.
beforehand
Oh, yeah.
and needs to get, take all the
Correct.
all the steps
So
that you need to take. But
there are appropriate ways to do things and not appropriate ways. So I agree with that part. But this thing, she lists every bill in here just in detail.
Okay.
And I meant to read this up before I got here. Better.
Oh, okay, it's fine. All right, another bill that luckily, fortunately, did not pass was Janet Bowling's attempt at voter reform.
Oh yeah. Well.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
It's ironic you should mention that because I saw the the Herald Chronicle and I saw that headline, and I called Margaret Otley at our own election board,
yeah.
election commission, and I told her about this bill, and she said, because they were literally talking about taking away, all their automated, the computer, and she said that's ridiculous.
It would take hours and
Well,
hours and hours to count the votes.
It was just didn't make any sense at all. And then,
Well, and can I jump in? Our voting system here in Franklin County, it is machine,
yes,
but it's not online. It is not connected to the internet, so it cannot be hacked. And
Nope.
it does have a paper trail.
yes,
But it's super convenient because you know the results,
Right.
like, instantaneously.
true. And ironically, as soon I even called Governor Lee and blah blah blah, and within just an hour or so after that newspaper headline, that newspaper was published, Brian, the editor, said, "Oh, she's backed away from that bill."
Well, I think it's just this knee-jerk GOP Republican thing of let's make it harder to vote. We don't want as many people to vote because but the main thing that I thought was crazy in that bill was that she wanted to get rid of early voting.
Oh, I know.
And early voting is the best. It's so good for people who,
Well, no matter what party they are.
she'd be getting rid of half of her voters
I
if
know.
she got rid of early voting. I mean, if you work, you cannot be sure that on Tuesday
Right.
you're going to be able to vote and get
Correct.
back in time on your lunch break because there's always a line on election day, and
Right.
it's so convenient and it's so safe. And she said that there would be quote unquote mischief. There's lots of mischief with early voting. Well, what is this mischief? I mean, you go to the Franklin County Election Commission, they have the names of everybody registered.
Right.
You go in, you vote. Once you voted, your name's crossed off the list.
Yep.
Nobody else can vote under your name.
Correct.
Where does she think that Margaret Otley's going to change the votes each night? I mean, no. I don't know show me some proof of this quote unquote mischief, because
I mean,
understand it.
Trump was legitimately elected in 2016, and Biden was, and the system works.
Yep.
So why
I know.
derail it?
And it's just convenient because if with early voting, you might have a surgery scheduled for election
Right.
day. You might not know, you might be out of town. You're going to be out of town. You have 2 weeks. I think Tennessee has a great policy on early voting, and especially the 2 Saturdays where you
Correct.
have from 8 to noon. Like, that is so convenient for working people. Because there's a
Absolutely.
lot of jobs where you can't get away to
Right.
go vote. There's just no way.
And especially with our economy and the virus and everything else, we need to have as much that works as possible. And automation is not, if used properly, not where it can't be hacked. It makes total sense.
And I still don't understand, like, this obsession with voter fraud. Okay, like when I go vote at the elementary school, they have a big ledger with the names of all the registered voters for that place.
Correct.
Once I go vote and I sign my name, nobody else can come and say they're Helen Stapleton and
Right.
vote. Or even suppose some person did decide to risk committing a federal crime and going to jail and said, oh, I'm going to pretend like I'm Helen Stapleton and vote. They'd come in, well, first of all, okay, maybe they would get a fake ID and say they're
Right.
me. They would come in and say, hi, I'm Helen Stapleton. They'd sign your name. So then later on in the day when I come to vote, my name's already been done. So even if I wanted to, I could. So you can't have two people voting under the same. It's
No.
just not even possible. So if you wanted to commit voter fraud, you'd have to, A, be willing to risk going to jail for
Right.
a federal crime.
Right.
You'd have to go to every voting place in the county and know the name of someone who's registered there, pretend you are that person, so go vote at Broadview, then like go over to Clark Memorial, pretend like you're, research then drive up to Swanee Elementary, vote again, and you'd have to know the names of all the people registered to
Right.
vote there. Who's going to do that?
It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, have you ever heard of that happening, Al? Al shaking his head. No.
No, I don't think
So
so.
again, by putting in all these voting restrictions, you're keeping tens of thousands of people from voting to avoid the one crazy person who's going to pretend like they're me,
Correct.
impersonate me, and vote as if they were me.
And see, I'm trying to think what else.
So luckily, thank goodness, that did not pass, and I think she even withdrew it before. But that's just part of this knee-jerk thing, like, oh my God, let's try and make voting
Well,
hard
on a
and
totally
difficult.
different subject, one of the bills she says that that Sandra Rice was talking about is that there's a bill, House Bill 575, that limits the health authority of the county departments of health, which makes no sense to me either. And she's saying oppose that bill, and it just goes on. And next time we have a meeting, I'll be more prepared.
Okay. All right. So, now the other thing that I saw that was really bizarre was that they banned the Confucius Institutes
Yeah.
from colleges.
I don't even know what that is.
It's just a Chinese cultural club. Like
Right.
we have the Goethe Institute,
Right.
which promotes learning German.
Correct.
In American universities.
Right.
I think there's the Quixote one, but
Japan.
Don Quixote. No, for Spanish.
Spanish.
I can't remember, but the French embassy
Right.
is, tries to promote the learning French in colleges, and then the Confucius Institute is
Right.
promoting learning Chinese in colleges. What's wrong with learning another language? I don't understand that either. But again, I don't think that there were people out in the streets holding up signs saying, no more Confucius Institute or no more Chinese learning. So again, I just don't
The
understand
logic.
why they find things that no one's really talking about or thinking about and act. Anyway, so again, I just feel like we have our GOP legislature is solving problems that don't exist.
Creating problems.
And often creating problems, and then completely ignoring problems that do exist, like the need for health care, the need for affordable health care, the need for reliable transportation, the need for reliable child care,
Right.
the need for affordable housing, the things that affect everybody, like almost everybody, the college debt. Now, I will give Tennessee kudos. We've got the 2 years free of
Right.
college. So
Community.
that's like a Bernie Sanders socialist dream.
that
I don't know how we got that, but
Is that just for community colleges?
it's for community colleges and technical colleges.
Right.
Yeah, the first 2 years. And Biden's trying to get that for
Correct.
the whole country.
Country,
That's
right.
part of his American Families Plan, is that you get the first two years
Right.
of community college free. So I hope I've been a mentor in that program, the Tennessee Promise thing, and
Yeah, I
it
have
has
too.
been right. I saw
Yeah.
you and Valerie there, right?
Yeah, we've done it.
So that is an excellent program, and
Absolutely.
I would love it if Biden could get that all over the country because it
Yes.
has helped so many students. Do you know any students, Al, who've done Tennessee Promise?
There's a lot of them.
Mhm.
There's a ton of kids that have
Yeah.
done it.
There are people who are nurses now, who are machinists now, who are welders now, who like just left to their family's own devices and resources probably wouldn't have been able to afford it. Like one of the girls I was mentoring, she was having to work full time at Walmart while she was in school, and I mean there's no way she would have had the
And I mean, everybody has to gain. This keeps people out of trouble with the law. This keeps people, able to have children. That they can raise their children.
She's going to be self-sufficient after that. Do we have a call?
Yep.
Okay, which number?
2202.
Okay. Hi, you're on Common Sense Matters. Did you have a question?
I have a comment. This is Betty Fraley.
Hey, Betty.
If you all address the unemployment thing, they have cut the unemployment time.
We did talk about that at the very beginning, yeah.
Okay, I missed the very first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was cut like in half.
But do you think that's a bad thing?
Well, for some people, yeah, because like we were talking about how all these restaurants have closed and they're not opening back up again.
Right. Because people don't want to work. They don't have to work.
No, but the restaurants just aren't opening back up.
Because they can't get people to work. Like here in town, we have restaurants that can't open past lunch. They don't have enough employees. They do good to keep them open for lunch. So that's the problem. They're having to raise what they're paying people. I noticed that one McDonald's is offering iPhones for people that come work and stay 6 months. Wow. There's a lot of people that are offering sign-on bonuses, which is bad for employees that are already working, to have a new person come in and get a $5,000 bonus to come work, and you've been working and you don't get anything because these people don't have to work.
Right.
They're living off of unemployment.
Well, what do I do here?
Just hit the, there you go.
Well, I mean, the unemployment was going to end anyway.
Right.
Yeah. So
I think personally, I think the number of people that are disincentivized, as you say, because they're getting funds, a lot of those people, the pay they were getting before this all happened was pretty. They were squeaking by as it was.
Well, I'm not denying that. I'm not saying that what they're making is rough, but I'm just saying that just constantly giving them money to stay out of work.
Yeah.
When there's jobs out there, factories that can't get back up and running. We can't get appliances. We can't get bedding. We can't get parts. We can't get these things that we need to get our lives back to normal because the people are not there working.
Well, we need to raise the minimum wage. I mean, the minimum wage in Tennessee is $7.25 an hour, and so I'm glad to hear you saying, Al, that they're offering incentives and raising wages, and I hope that will. That's
also
the market working.
But also there are single women, and they have to choose between taking care of a child and going back to their job, and so that really puts them in an awkward position.
That is true. Like once schools open up again.
Yeah, I think that'll be less of an issue. I'm not saying there aren't people that are taking advantage of it. That's always going to be the case. But there's also a lot of people who are really struggling, and it's not really a choice even. I mean, if you're a single parent, even a father, and you can't barely afford child care and your utilities and your rent and everything else. I mean, it's just, food and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you got to make a choice, and sometimes it's not a choice that makes it look very good.
But there's also other help out there to help these people. There's food assistance. There's other assistance that are out there that are available for those people, and not just handouts. I got another phone call.
Okay. 2?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you're on Common Sense Matters. Did you have a question for us?
Hey, y'all.
Hey.
This is Sandy.
Hey.
I'll need to do the math and see how much that handout, the unemployment benefits, how can anybody live on that? Even if you work full time for minimum wage, it's more than what that handout is. And people don't have child care.
What she's
Through COVID, let these people get on their feet. How about raising the minimum wage? That hasn't gone up in 10, 12 years.
I'm not arguing with that.
If people made a decent wage, they wouldn't have to go around and get handouts all the time.
I'm not arguing that point. I'm just saying that the constantly giving them all the extra money and unemployment is keeping people from going back to work.
well, that to me
But they
would.
can't live on that.
I agree, and that
I mean,
was.
you're saying I'm not going to work because I'm making all this money on
Yeah.
unemployment. They're paying me for not working. No,
Yeah, they are.
it doesn't add up. Do the math.
Well, I just know what they're doing. You know, I know what's happening.
Well, I do think if you have even 2 kids that are not in school, it would be, there's no way you could
Go back to work.
go back to work.
No.
Well, you had that problem before. You know?
No, but before the kids were in school, like schools have been
We've
closed.
always had the single mom issue.
right.
Always had the single mom problem, whether they were working or not working before this deal. You know, it's always been an issue.
I'm talking about schools closing.
Right. I tell you who's getting a lot of money for doing their work, and that's the state legislators.
She's saying the state
The
legislators.
state legislators actually,
they don't do any work for the people of Tennessee.
well, they
They
actually
just collect the money
just,
and then make hate laws and pick on the poor. This is why I'm not on
Wish
the
we could
show
get it
this morning. Helen. Thanks for taking my time.
well, actually, one of the things, you just brought up a good point, because one of the things that the state legislature did do was to vote themselves a pay increase and a per diem
Always.
increase.
Always.
While cutting things, while not raising the minimum wage, and while not,
To me, it's hypocrisy.
and while, yeah, so they did, for the first time in a long time, voted themselves a pay raise. So, yeah, that's interesting.
For doing nothing. They're not in their communities. They're not listening to the people. They're not trying to make Tennesseans' lives better, especially in rural communities. They're going on the party line, and that's from Washington. So let Washington pay them, not us. Thanks for taking my comments. Y'all are doing a service.
Okay, all right, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Just hit the speaker button. The bottom.
Okay, well, we are out of time pretty much. So did you have anything else you wanted to say, Philip?
Well, I think that people need to really review the entire scope of legislation, and some of it is good and some of it is not. Is just, there's a mix, but unfortunately I think predominantly it is not in the best interest, especially of blue collar, middle class and blue collar workers and citizens of this state.
Yeah, definitely.
That's my opinion.
Definitely not.
And
And yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone was ever meant to live on unemployment forever, and it is by necessity or by definition a temporary situation, and hopefully, and I see what you mean, Al. It's like the chicken and the egg thing. The businesses aren't opening because they're not getting people.
Right.
And yeah. So.
Well, okay, I'm going to pay you $15 an hour. I'm going to go up on my milkshake by another $1 or $2. So what have you gained? So that's the other side of the coin, is that you need more money, but yet the service, the product is going to go up, or you're going to cut services. So that's going to be a problem as well as we see these things, go up. I mean, our business is already starting to hire people in at $12 and $15 an hour without minimum wage going up. It's kind of a marketplace.
Right,
Do you
you're
really
right.
need the minimum wage to go up? Just businesses that can afford to pay more to get people pay more, And then you as a working person decide where you want to work at, And if you're not happy with these type deals, get better educated. Get better skills.
well, that's not always that.
It's not that simple, but
No.
that's an idea,
But there will, I mean, you can tell everybody to go and get better skills, and that's definitely what I would tell my children for sure. But we will always need McDonald's workers. We will always need.
But they make
doctors.
more than a correctional
Yeah.
officer.
Wow, really?
You go to work at McDonald's and flip hamburgers and make more than a correctional officer.
So what does a correctional officer in this county make?
they're under $15 an hour. They're somewhere around $12, $13 an hour.
That's
Well, I've talked to some of them, and they're not very happy with that. I know about that.
Yep, 'cause I worked there. I know
Yeah, I know
what it
about
was.
that.
Line one.
Hi, you're on Common Sense Matters. Did you have a question?
Oh, yes, I did. I wanted to revisit just for a second the permitless carry bill that was passed. And I understood Philip to say there is no background check. There is a background check required for some people. I may have missed that, but I don't think there is. I just wanted to
There is.
clarify that with him.
According to what I've heard from the Franklin County Sheriff's Department, I called them. I called Walmart, and I also texted Iris Rudder, Representative Rudder, and she said the background check is required. Is required, and that I think is appropriate.
Well, I agree. I hope we do have them still, but I read the Chattanooga Times-Free Press regularly for state news, and their reporting and editorial says there is no longer, or there will not be as of July 1, a background check for people that fit the categories that you mentioned earlier, which is pretty much everybody.
Well,
So I think we should double-check that. All of us should.
no, I agree.
I don't want to have an argument with good Philip Lorenz, I'll say that, but I just want to be sure about that particular piece of that legislation, okay?
All right. Well, we'll have to check on that.
We'll check on that and let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so
I'll check on it
much.
again, too.
All
Thank
right,
you all. Nice talk show this morning.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Well, thank y'all so much for listening, and we'll be back in a month. We're doing every fourth Thursday of the month, Common Sense Matters. Be sure to tune in, and thank you so much, Philip, for
Yep.
joining us.
Yeah, you did a good job, Philip. It was nice that you need to come back more often.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
I know.
Very knowledgeable of what's going on
Yep.
and articulate very well.
Thank you.
So thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you, too.
It is 8:59, and it's always good to see you too, Helen. All right. Hey, it's going to be somewhat sunny today, so get out there and enjoy the sunshine up to about 85. Don't forget, tonight we've got sub-state action. It's Hotland in Murfreesboro taking on Summertown. Semi-finals in the state tournament, Class A softball action. We'll have that game for you live tonight at around 5:30. So make sure you tune in and catch all the action in that ball game. Guys, have a great rest of the morning.
Playing the best of the 80s, 90s, and now. This is FM 106.9 and AM 1340 WCDT, Winchester.
TRN News.
National Electric Service crews restoring power near the Nashville airport after a broken pole shut off service to about 6,300 customers.